Hello, my Astro family. This is Lada from astrolada.com with your May 2020 horoscopes. Yay, I'm back, feeling a bit better. And I have invited this month evolutionary astrologer Bryan to help me to lead you through the spiritual and karmic meaning of this month. And I will cover the more practical, mundane day-to-day influence of the month. And Bryan is the most spectacular astrologer I've seen. The first week we introduced him, he had 500 individual orders, and they have carried on like that ever since. So he broke the record with us, and you'll see why. He's amazing. So I'm very excited to present you the May 2020 horoscopes. And by the way, on May 16th, Bryan is making his first webinar for astrolada.com for our audience, which is only $63 down from $90, on past life astrology, how to read the past lives in your horoscope. And I think it will be our most successful webinar to date as well, because the topic is fascinating. So let's begin. Aquarius, May 2020, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising. This is the one I anticipate the most. And hello, Bryan. Can you lead us through the evolutionary and karmic lessons that we're wrapping up for Aquarius?
Absolutely. Happy to. And with my Venus in Aquarius of my own chart, of my own birth chart, you know, I really like Aquarius energy. So let's spend some time here.
Oh, maybe that's why I like you.
Yeah, we got a lot of fire and air synergy going on. It's good. So what's happening is what are called the nodes of the moon are about to change signs. Okay, they've been in Capricorn, Cancer the last year and a half. And of course, Capricorn's been a major theme the last really 2 years, because Saturn and Pluto have been in this sign. Jupiter's in Capricorn now. And the north node and the south node, you can think of them as opposite points. They are opposite. So the juxtaposition between the north and south node, I always like to use the image of the teeter-totter. And the teeter-totter has been way more lopsided in the direction of Capricorn, not only because the south node's in Capricorn, but aided and abetted by those other massive planets in terms of their symbolic meaning in our lives. Now, those are about to change signs. And that's different than the nodes in your own personal chart. Okay, that's what I'll be covering in the webinar next month, where I teach how to read your past life through the nodes in your own personal chart. So these are the transit nodes where they are today. So through the lens of evolutionary astrology, which is the style I practice, the ones in your chart are personal karma. The transiting nodes are collective karma. Okay, so we as humanity have been trying to, let's say, balance out more towards Cancer energy and try to get over some of the bad habits associated with the south node sign. It is about habitual behavior. And to do that, we balance out the energy by going for high end, in this case, Cancer. Now for you Aquarians out there, these nodes, especially Aquarius rising now, these nodes have been in, the south node's been in the 12th house, the north node's been in the 6th house. So since we've had Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, okay, and the south node of the moon, all in this 12th house, you have been getting your PhD in 12th house in your life over the last couple of years. Arguably the most 12th house time of your entire life. Now, what does that mean? That's the pressing question here.
I know what it means.
Don't cheat. Yeah.
Okay.
So the houses is numbered 1 through 12. Okay, that's the wheel. So here we are at number 12, the end of a cycle. And the medieval astrologers called the 12th house the house of troubles. Oh no, you got Saturn, the greater malefic, and Pluto, the god of hell, in the house of troubles. Look out. Yeah, the sky is falling, or about to. But a more healthy way to look at this, instead of like a doom and gloom reading, is it's the season of endings, the end of the housing cycle. The nodes are about to change signs, in your case, going the other way, towards the 11th house. But Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto are headed towards the 1st house which is completely different energy and will be a breath of fresh air for you. So you've been in the season of endings. Your existence has been changing before your lives now. Can be difficult changes with 12th house. And from the ego's perspective, that's not the best news in the world. But this isn't the house of the ego. Okay? This is the house of the soul. Yes, it's the season of endings. Yes, it's the house of troubles, but really the highest octave of the 12th house is it's the house of consciousness, house of meditation, and different levels of consciousness. And to the soul's perspective, this is the best news in the world because things need to come to an end, famously, to make way for a new beginning. So the evolutionary intention for you over the last couple of years has been necessary loss. Yeah. And letting go of attachments is really key here. Going with the flow. Because attachments in your life are leaving that are no longer in alignment with your soul's purpose and needs. Okay, so perhaps existential biological structures falling apart in your life to a certain degree, making way for the first house of new beginnings. And that's first house is a different subject for another video because we want to keep it, on this 12th house, 6th house axis for now. But again, breath of fresh air is coming. That should be comforting. So this time you've been in is about kind of embracing uncertainty, things falling apart, aspects of your personality and psychological stuff changing too. The possibility of a psychological crisis, kind of sometimes the dark night of the soul sort of feeling here. Because you're in the process of leaving the old self behind. And in order to do that, to a certain degree, your personality begins to disintegrate a little bit, making way for something new to arise. But that can be a bit scary, We can feel that discontentment as we're led seemingly aimless into the unknown. Okay, but there is divine guidance. That's really going to be your saving grace, navigating 12th house stimulus. Okay, and to transform in this way, to lose your identity, so to speak, can be rattling, can be jarring. And the best thing to do as you're wrapping up this 12th house, really, it's going to get a little better when the nodes change signs, but Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto will all be in this house. The energy's lightening up for the next couple months, but really till the end of 2020, when Saturn and Jupiter finally leave and go into the next sign. Okay, so just ride it out. Okay, but I believe you've been through the worst of it. Okay, now surrendering, house of consciousness, house of meditation. When somebody's going through when I'm counseling with somebody and I'm talking, they're going through a lot of 12th house stuff, let's say, and they're like, what do I do, Bryan? What do I do? And I say, do nothing, which kind of feels like a cop-out. It is a lot about surrender. It's about going into that still place within. Meditation can be extremely fruitful here. Okay? Go within. And there can be a feeling of loneliness associated, but that's okay, Maybe a numbing feeling of being a bit lost, which for Aquarius can sometimes manifest as a state of disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but just trust that it's all part of the process. Trust in the divine plan. The motorcycles. Okay, yeah. And I also point out, beware of, because of this can be a little disconcerting, beware of addiction, okay? Like, it doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. It can be video games. It can be Netflix binging, but that's a component of the 12th house as well, at least the shadow side of it. So now, more motorcycles. They like to go really fast down city streets here in Portugal. So the North Node is the opposite side of the polarity. Okay, North Node in Cancer in the 6th house. So you're trying to get the teeter-totter to go from this dissolving sort of 12th house energy more grounded, okay? And grounded is actually a good word for the 6th house. It kind of has an earthy feeling to it since it resonates so deeply with the earth sign of Virgo. Yeah. So as I said, the south node, Saturn, Jupiter will soon be leaving the 12th, okay, which will be a massive shift. But in the road to that shift, it will be very helpful for you to work with Cancer now in the 6th while the energy is still here while you can, because right before the nodes or any planet change signs, there's a maximum pulse. That's been my observation. It almost feels like the energy of those symbols is kind of wrapping up. So here it is, Cancer North Node is wrapping up. It says, now's your last chance, you know, to balance the teeter-totter, okay? So North Node in the 6th house is the secret of your healing, really, because it's in Cancer, which is always about healing, self-nurturing. Yeah. So there is sometimes a tendency with the 12th house to kind of get absorbed in the self. Okay. I don't mean self-absorbed or narcissistic or none of that or selfish. Just it's a very internal house. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if things are falling apart around you and you know you trust your intuition and you do a lot of meditation, that's very inward. You know, it's absorbed in the self. So it's time to, with North Node in the 6th house, kind of come down off the mountaintop of your inward journey and down into the marketplace and roll up your sleeves. It's like get your feet onto the dirt again, because you've been kind of hovering a little bit with the 12th house.
Yeah, my husband says I'm spaced out a lot all the time for the past year or something.
You're walking around with a disembodied head, you know, just kind of floating. Yeah. So 6th house, I mean, house of service. It's a very earthy, work-oriented house. So here we are working right now, Lada. And I would imagine this is helping to put your head back on your shoulders a little bit.
Grounding, you know? That's the only thing that grounds me nowadays.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like I go back to old ways of being and going internal inside and just going a bit mad. Honestly, like some kind of things I can't control, that they come like from the invisible realms of my soul, and their fears and things that I'm not in control of them, and they make me mad. And my husband like, okay, go in the garden, sit by a tree, go and do some work. This is the only thing that kind of grounds me. Wash the dishes, that's what, clean the house.
He doesn't even need astrology, you know? No. Sounds like a wise man. So over the last couple of years, you probably felt some things start to, you know, lose your grip. It's like, oh, that doesn't feel right, you know, start to disintegrate because you're about to enter into this new phase. I know you've had some changes around the channel and stuff too, you know, the YouTube channel.
Everything, I'm changing everything, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it has to, because you're making way for a new beginning, a rebirth.
But it's been like a 2-year slow death process. I'm like, will you finally die and get reborn? It's like, sorry.
Yeah, no, these are slow moving planets that have been working their way through your 12th house, you know, and hopefully you've been meditate to sort of, you know, cope, because that'll help to lower the stress. And it's so much about surrendering into the divine plan, you know. God has something else in mind for you.
Yeah, I've just learned not to make plans because my plans don't work out now, and to go with the flow more. And it's like it's beyond my control. And when you kind of stop resisting, it kind of like, let me enjoy the journey.
What do I do? What do I do? Do nothing, you know, says Dr. Bryan. And I say doctor really loosely. So here you are doing your deep healing work, making some videos with me, you know, or doing a reading, or getting your hands into the garden, whatever it is. It's 6 houses. It's like seeing something you've built. And here you are House of service, sixth house, helpfulness towards other people. We're kind of centering around you because it kind of went that way. But this is across the board for Aquarius risings, you know. So sixth house is connected with a skill or a craft. Now, if you're feeling a little bit disassociated or discontented with all the changes, yeah, we want to look to healing methods, and it helps us to feel better to heal ourselves by helping other people. Through helping other people, we often heal ourselves. God says, you know, get your act together, get down off the mountaintop and get down into the marketplace and just make some things happen, you know. Get something you can sink your teeth into so you don't float away. Yeah. Something tangible, because you've been lost in the world of the intangible. So rooting is a major part of your medicine. It's like imagine there's a motivational speaker, really famous one, okay, and he can just fill stadiums, and he charges everyone $40 to $60 to sit and watch him talk, you know, where he says, dream big, you know, manifest your destiny, all this stuff, and he lifts the spirits of everybody in the stadium. And then somebody decides to quit their job and start a business that they've been dreaming about for quite some time. The following year, they make, you know, $4,000. The year after that, they make $40,000. The year after that, they make $400,000. And they just take off. They write this beautiful letter to the motivational speaker just saying, oh, it's so amazing what you did for me. What a testimonial. And of course, he'll put it in his next book. And then we have another person at that same stadium who did the same thing, quit their job and started a business that they've been dreaming about. They made $4,000 the next year. They made $2,000 the following year. And then it falls apart and they go back to their old career. Two different people having two different experiences. And the second person might write a letter to the motivational speaker, you know, saying, what did you do to my life? And of course, he won't put that in his book. But two different experiences. 12th house feels much more like the second story as things are kind of dissolving. That's not a good time to take action, to sign big contracts, to start new businesses. You know, you're letting things melt. Okay. But you're about to head into this major first house period, cycle of new beginnings. Sixth house, making something real, being useful to other people, feels much more like building. So it really depends on the person, where they're at in their life within the cycles of astrology, these wheels within wheels within wheels that are clicking. And for you right now, and for all the Aquarius risings, they're clicking in more of this tangible, creating way as you're beginning to taper out of this 12th house. And then in the coming years, look out, okay, because it's going to be a mini reincarnation. And how amazing that mini reincarnation is for you is dependent on your healing journey now, as you just get down into the marketplace and make things real, because that's a part of your medicine right now. And that's the evolutionary intention, to expand our consciousness through the lens of this approach to astrology. And I'm going to pass the ball to you, Lada, because I know you want to talk about all these retrograde planets, which are very inward sort of, you know, the planets turned inward sort of energy too. So it'll be interesting to get your take on how that ties in.
Bryan, I so tapped into this 12th house energy. I don't think I can do it. I'll record it alone and add it after that, because I honestly, I need to lay down. So okay. I'll record and add it after that. So I'll say goodbye to the people. This was so beautifully put. But yeah, I'm still so much in that 12.
No worries.
I'll continue it, guys. You know, but thank you so much, and you'll see the continuation.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, Aquarius, feeling better today, so I can continue with your forecast for May 2020. And the most important thing that's happening specifically on that month is that 3 planets are going retrograde. It's rare to have even one going, but when three of the major players, I mean the visible planets that rule material things in our life, tangible areas of our life, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, all of them are going retrograde. So it means a big turnaround in our life collectively. And for everyone who also feel it personally at some level, and specifically Aquarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, let's start with Venus. Venus is going to go retrograde in your 5th house. The last time this happened was 2012, around the summer, again spring. So think back to what was happening then, some lessons, something similar might repeat to you, something that you started then might come to a conclusion now or might come to be revised. But Venus going retrograde in the 5th house can have, let's speak maybe some of the harder manifestations that can happen. 5th house is your love life. And, boyfriends, girlfriends, people that you're erotically attracted to. And when Venus goes retrograde there, we start rethinking those relationships. Is that the right person? Do we have deep enough connection? And is it, do I give and receive enough love? Or maybe a relationship partner might bring those issues. Maybe your husband or wife can come to you and say, we haven't been connecting much. I don't feel like you're in love with me. Or how can we become in love again? Retrograde planet is, the ultimate goal is to restart something. Venus especially wants to make it more fair, more balanced, more enjoyable, more sensual. The ultimate goal of this Venus retrograde in your 5th house, by the time it turns direct, by July, basically, you'd have, if you have done the right conversations with the partner, the right readjustment, you have a much more sensual, much more erotically charged relationship, much more enjoyable, because 5th house is also to have fun, to feel in love, maybe fall in love again with your partner. That's one possibility, because Venus wants to love. 5th house wants to be in love as well. They go very well together. In ancient astrology, Venus is joyful in this 5th house of pleasures, of fun, of being in love. And Venus going there retrograde says we need to restart that. You've forgotten about that. Let's revise it. What are you doing wrong that you're not able to really enjoy yourself? What are you doing that you're not able to feel, to self-express properly? To express your true identity in a joyful, natural way. So these are some, and of course this can start with a crisis, maybe crisis in a personal relationship, crisis in your relationship with your partner. So you can dive deeper. Retrograde is to dive deeper, to re-examine, to rethink. In Gemini, it wants to communicate. It wants you to communicate about those issues, what it is important for you to feel loved, what it is important for you to feel noticed, to feel turned on by your partner, all of those things, to have fun with your partner. And just warning you that it can start with a crisis. Remember that. And if it's not the right thing, it can basically sometimes conclude certain relationship. But Venus is sending trine to your sign. So I think it's going to, the final result will be much nicer, like you learning to have more fun, more joy, to express yourself in a more confident way, in a more balanced way. But initially it becomes more complex, basically. And 50, and it can mean that someone from the past is coming, a past lover, to reconnect, or maybe you had to stop a relationship when this happened, when this lockdown happened. You can restart it now. You can start the erotic part, the fun part of a relationship, pick up where you left. Someone from the past you haven't heard from can connect to you. You can connect with them to reevaluate it, to see, to recalibrate, or to basically to have a closure sometimes, or to restart it. Also, some hobbies, things that make you feel alive, natural talents, interests that you're very passionate about from the past, you might be able to restart them. Maybe the lockdown stopped you from going to your tennis classes or to gym, and now Venus starting to go retrograde will be like revisiting, which hobbies do I want to keep in my life? What is making me feel really alive? Or maybe I should restarting your aerobics exercise, or might be sport, or it might be painting, or hands and crafts. It's in Gemini, or restarting writing a journal, and you find a lot of joy in that. Restarting doing something creative that gives you a lot of pleasure, basically. picking up knitting or whatever you do with the hands, or with the mind, or any hobbies that are connected to writing, to speaking, of course, because or art, because it's Venus or Gemini. Restarting those. Also, you can revive an old creative project of yours and be asked to finish it, to really implement it. And people that have their own businesses, fifth house is your own business. It's your baby, something that you grow, something that you fully invented with your own original intelligence. So that will require you to work 3 times harder at it now. To really, and for me, for example, I've been working on a new creative project that everyone will benefit from, because I'm Aquarius rising as well. And when Venus is going retrograde now, I know that those 2 months basically will be the hardest work. I started a year ago, but I really need to dig deep now. So it's not something totally new that you'll be doing. It's something that you have an awareness about, some creative project, something that you're passionate about, that you have to deep dive deeper, fix something, redo it over and over a few times, because I had an original idea how it's going to look. But I know now that when I start doing it with the designers and everything, the creative idea will shift, will change. And that's what retrograde periods want. Take something that's already there's an idea, or that's been started, or you've had it, make it better, fix it. Or maybe you can start reevaluating what's not working in your business, something that you're passionate, creative about, how to make it more, public, relatable, so to speak, how to dust off its image, improve it, make it better. But initially it can start with, you're being dissatisfied with your creations, you're being dissatisfied with your ideas, so you start to revise them and dive deep and make them better. Fifth house is also your children. I mean, that's very fertile position when Venus goes retrograde and stays for 2-3 months almost in your fifth house. Some of you who are trying to get pregnant, that might be period when it does. Others, it can indicate that you're reconnecting with children, or it can mean that your child has to, something can happen unexpected, because retrograde planets are very unexpected, unpredictable in regards to your children. But it's not going to be bad, don't be scared. It's Venus, it's a good planet, but it's something that can require more mobilization of your counseling abilities with your children. Venus likes to counsel, to give a worldly advice, so something like that might be required in regards to your child. But ultimately, because it is the Venus, it is a benefic, it's in a lucky house, also makes a person luckier when Venus stays so long in the fifth house. Even financially, because Venus is naturally a financial planet. So it can make a person luckier, or make a person re-examine their or maybe some more speculative investments that you've made in the past. They can have some returns now when Venus goes retrograde, or they can change direction and surprise you. I hope not in a negative way, but it's a bit unexpected with retrograde planets. You never know. All right. So yeah, a lot of those things. And now let's go to the other planet that's going retrograde. That's Saturn, the planet that rules us. It's going retrograde in our sign for the first time in 30 years. What is that? It's the king is finally home. The home is our sign, Aquarius, whether it's Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, and the king will stay. The king is back. It's been around the block for 30 years. He's back to his kingdom to consolidate the base, to restart this whole thing. So it's a reset year for many Aquarius, especially the early born Aquarius, the first 5 degrees of Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Say from the 20th of January till the 25th of January. And the later Aquarius, they might start feeling it a little bit, but the full reset comes in 2021, 2022, when the Saturn carries on moving through the rest of Aquarius. But everyone will feel it at some level now, especially the early Aquarians, that the reevaluation of your whole life, guys. And it tends to get tougher. It can get tougher when Saturn goes retrograde in your sign, but it makes you ask very deep questions about your life. Saturn is about priorities, realization that time is running out. And with time running out, what is it that I really want to leave behind me? Something constructive, something visible that makes an impact. And with those deep questions, maybe a lot of Aquarians start asking them now, and they would work on them for the next 2 years and a bit more, to really, after that, by the end of that period, that you have really created a new kingdom. You've come back to the kingdom and you say, I want to, okay, I've been gone 30 years, traveling around, experiencing. Now I'm in the last 2 years, I've been shedding everything old, and now I really have to separate fully myself from the past and recreate this kingdom, make it better, make it in tune with the modern times, with what is required, with this new no longer industrial age, but with this new age of Aquarius that is dawning on us, which is technocratic, which is information age. And you as Aquarians, one of your missions, whether it's your sun or ascendant or even moon, one of your missions is to spread information and intellectual property. So a lot of you might be thinking deep on creating certain such path. But even if you're not in such areas, Saturn going retrograde in your first house is all about questioning who I am and starting to dig deeper to recreate and to create a new you, and a you that is more authentic, that you've cut off, because Saturn wants to cut off everything that is like a weight from the past from you, and just leave the bare minimals and essentials. So you're starting a process of redesigning yourself, even your appearance, your physical appearance. If it's your someday, it's your career, that will take a restructuring. Extra responsibilities always come when Saturn especially goes retrograde, but usually it can start with some problem, some difficulty, some delay, some sense of inadequacy, some sense of pressure, some sense of dissatisfaction, or some sense of some austerity, and that exactly that. There's more negative connotations when Saturn goes retrograde in your sign, of questioning, of needing to put 3 times more efforts, pushes you, and of dissatisfaction or of difficult circumstances. This is exactly the thing that and pushes you to make more effort. Maybe you've always wanted to start your own business and you've been postponing, or maybe you've always wanted to cut off, start working out, or maybe you always wanted to some new powerful beginning that will stay for you for many years. The whole Saturn cycle is 30 years. So now the retrograde period can, if you've been one of those procrastinators like me, it really gets real. And the pressure from outside, whether through your health, whether through your external circumstances, becomes so big that you need to finally transform that coal into a diamond. And Saturn is the planet of pressure that puts that really tough, like the weight of the universe on you to press you and to transform you into a diamond. So when things get a bit tougher, when you feel a bit like a daily grind, or if you feel like too negative or dissatisfied, it's part of the process. Accept it. But exactly that pain is what will push you to do this grand master work. Saturn is the grand master, the grand designer, and he wants you now to restructure your life, especially early Aquarians. They have this year in particular. So you might be revisiting your looks, your appearance, your health, your physical body, and if you're resisting, problems arrive when Saturn goes retrograde, or something new that you've started. You have to work extra hard on it. You have to really dig deep and put the efforts for it. This is what Saturn's good for. Sorry. And then you're going to have, but ultimately Saturn is very empowered in Aquarius. Even the retrograde period, the final results tend to be quite good. They're usually future oriented as well. Even though Saturn is retrograde, you are fixing something from the past and revising it so you can have a much better future. And the 11th Aquarius is the sign of dreams and wishes, and we as representative of Aquarius rising, or moon or sun, we're here often with a mission to create, to build a dream of ours. Not everyone has that freedom. Not everyone is allowed that. So this is what we're doing. with Saturn in our sign now for the next 2.5 years. And especially now when it's going retrograde, especially in May and in June, after that it eases off because it goes back into another sign where it came from. And then we have Jupiter going retrograde in our 12th house. Okay, if you've been planning some faraway journey that was interrupted, Venus, Jupiter going retrograde, far away, 12th house, foreign places, far away, you might be able to resume it and do it over the next few months till the end of the summer. But if you get some new plans to travel and Jupiter is retrograde in the 12th, it might be a bit more complicated. There might be some delays, some hoops to jump over and stuff. If you're having some business with faraway countries, import, export, it changes. However, it's been till now when the planet goes retrograde, it changes for better or worse. If it was complicated and worse, it gets some other, direction, some new developments. If it was flowing easily, you need to change something or to fix something there. But opportunities from the past tend to come when Jupiter goes retrograde. Jupiter rules opportunities, and in the 12th house it rules faraway countries from foreign people, in spiritual fields, connected to investment in foreign countries as well, connected to maybe opportunities for undeclared support, some unregimented support that is hidden, that you don't have to pay taxes for, something like a second lifeline that can come as well. And also the 12th house is past lifetimes and past activities. And Jupiter going retrograde, it can be that you might receive some support from the invisible world or from someone that you're not aware of, who helps you because you did something good in the past. Maybe you did something good years ago, and now it comes back to you, Jupiter retrograde. On a more deeper level, you might be rethinking your, because so many planets were in your 12th house over the last 2 years, you know that. And especially it was so hard this spring for many Aquarians. They know maybe with so many planets in the 12th house, now just Jupiter is left and Pluto, but there were so many endings. 12th house is ending, sometimes losses, sometimes feeling your weakness, that you're not immortal. The 12th house is, the soul wants to, the consciousness needs to rise, like Bryan said. And in order for you to dissociate from the body, often the body is very weakened when there are planets in the 12th house, and people either spend time in isolation or retreat, or they're confused, or their physical body is weakened. So now Jupiter retrograding in your 12th house can indicate that you're trying to understand philosophically and spiritually what happened over the last few months, what happened over the last 2 years. To integrate that, to understand it from a spiritual, philosophical point of view. And there'll be some powerful spiritual insights for many of you Aquarius when Jupiter goes retrograde in your 12th house. Is the first time in 12 years is going retrograde. You can deep, very deep, and you can have like a revelations, because a retrograde planet is more internalized, and the 12th house is very internal with spiritual insights and understanding from a much higher perspective, from the spiritual perspective. It's very deep understanding that's coming to many of you. Also, if you've been studying something, some spiritual, any kind, if you've been researching or studying any kind of, I'm so sorry, I'm still haven't recovered fully. 4 months of illnesses and bronchitis, and it's nonstop. It's like, it's been, for me, all those 12 planets, all those planets in the 12th house. I don't know how it hit you, but it hit me. Thankfully, not as bad as I expected, but still. So a lot of revelations about things from the past that you've forgotten can appear when Jupiter goes retrograde in the 12th. A lot of memories, maybe even from past lifetimes, that can rise, so that can problems that you've had, that you've been working through for the past couple of years, that they can come to the surface emotionally, psychologically, but because it's Jupiter, for you to understand them from a higher perspective. Also in dreams, you can receive powerful suggestions in dreams and information from psychics, from astrologers, any kind of such people in the spiritual field, or who are guides, who are channelers of information. Usually you yourself can become a channel of information as well. But deep research can make sense if you've been studying or researching something. I can tell you that when Jupiter went retrograde for the last time for me 12 years ago, that's when astrology started clicking after studying it for 7 years. I was like, oh, everything, it feels like so, all this planet, this aspect, it's like I can't make sense of it. And then Jupiter went retrograde in the 12 years ago, and I was like, wow, it's the puzzle started coming together, because 12th house is about unification and merging together, and all those different bits and pieces of information I've been having about astrology, they just made sense. And I finally had a holistic feeling, a holistic understanding of something I've been studying for years. So it's possible for you to happen for something you've been studying, researching, and also for your overall life, because Jupiter really wants to stabilize your psyche and consciousness. All planets have been working: Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter as well, the South Node in this 12th house for you for a few years now, to help you um, shed and raise in consciousness. And I think the full integration might happen over this summer, these months when Jupiter starts going retrograde in your 12th house, to clean your psyche of the waste and the attachment, and to do it in an easy way. Jupiter is a planet that makes you joy, brings you joy in doing something. So releasing the past with joy, because Saturn was in your 12th till now 12th, and it was hard to release the past. You knew you had to, but it was a struggle. And now Jupiter going retrograde, it will be like, I think I'm finally ready. I'm seeing the bigger picture. It's like a shift in consciousness, but happens easy, opens up your mind, and you're able to conclude and end all those things. All right, enough of that. I hope. And by the way, be careful, because Jupiter rules your 11th and 2nd houses, house of money. And both are connected to income and money, cash flow and net worth. And it's going retrograde in the 12th house, which can mean expenses. So you might be having extra expenses than usual, spending, but it might be for something good. If you're investing in something long term, it might take maybe a year or 2 or 3 before you see the results. But that's, but there is indications here of shift in your finances and resources. And maybe it's good if you're investing in something 12th house, your money, which is spiritual knowledge, or if it's something to do with spirituality or with foreign places in any way, or hospitals or medical stuff, just for those of you who are interested. All right, so there we go. Thank you so much, Aquarius. Do write what's happening, how are things progressing. Very unpredictable month. May, so many shifts and changes in many areas of life. We're questioning everything: reality, ourselves, our lives, our self-expression, our authenticity, the 5th house as well, our spirituality, and our consciousness. Wow, a lot of growth continues, guys. So yes, do join us with Bryan on the 16th of May, past lives, astrology of past lifetimes. Maybe Aquarius will be quite interested in that, because Jupiter is in their 12th house of past lifetime now, and it can give them a lot of insight about why am I like that. 12th house is the underwater stones, the psychological issues we've gathered over lifetimes that we've buried, and now Jupiter shines a light on them, and deep understanding and coming to peace with it. When you understand something, say, I have panic attacks in planes and small places. That's why I rarely do live events anywhere. And if it's coming from a past lifetime, and if you realize it, the claustrophobia, this is when it can be healed. But everyone has such things. It might not be so visceral and intense. It might be self-sabotaging behaviors, addictive patterns of any sorts. It might be victim mentality of any sorts, or loser, just always being a loser in some way. This is all underwater psychological stones that trip us from past lifetimes. And when Jupiter goes retrograde in the 12th, we have a unique and very rare opportunity to basically give the answer and a glimpse about what to understand, the underlying reasons of that. And when you understand them, you stop doing them. It's just so natural. I remember 12 years ago when Jupiter went retrograde in my 12th house, I had my best psychic reading I contacted this psychic, and she predicted. And I had nothing. I was unemployed then. I just loved astrology, but that's all. And she said, "You'll become famous. Without even knowing what I was asking me, she said, "People know you around the world," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds great." But yes, if you want contact, spirit can talk to you now more clearly when Jupiter is retrograde in your 12th house. And even though Jupiter is in fall there, this is the best we get. Yes, Aquarius, Jupiter will always be, in fall in Capricorn in our 12th house, but that's the best we can get. So yeah, that's amazing time for such answers. So thank you so much. And yeah, do join us with Bryan, Past Life Astrologers of Past Lifetime, on May the 16th. Hope you can learn a lot from that.